I want us to know that we can prepare and want to prepare to be able to listen more and more deeply to the kind of talk that is happening here right now. This has been a truth for a long time, and the Gnostic texts found at Nag Hammadi, a collection of ancient mystical teachings, writings, there's a description back then of a teacher talking to a student. And it goes, "My child, it's your job, it's your business to understand. It's my job to be successful at speaking the words that spring from the source which flows inside me. My child, one who listens must perceive the same as the one who speaks. Share the same awareness, share the same spirit. The one who is hearing must hear more than just the voice of the one who speaks. Now, be completely present. Give me your whole attention with all the understanding that you are capable of, with all the subtlety you can master. For the teaching about divinity requires a divine concentration of consciousness if it's to be understood. It's just like a torrential river plunging head down from the heights so violently that with its rapidity and speed, it outstrips the attention not only of whoever is listening, but of whoever is speaking. Right now, there is a divine torrent happening in me and in you. You're hearing what I'm saying, but there's so much more in you that you can be hearing. And it is the movement of that divine energy through you. In any spiritual conversation, remember, there's more than you can consciously pay attention to, but listen for it. Listen to what's present beyond the words. So, the title of this talk is Leadership from the Heart, and as the dean of the local campus of the School of Spiritual Leadership, which trains our ministers, I asked the ministerial students to consider this question. What's the difference between spiritual leadership and any other kind of leadership? Well, one of the points I'm sure to make is that a spiritual leader sees God in everyone and everything. Now, other forms of leadership may do that also, but it's essential to spiritual leadership. This point was made very clearly by our founder, Ernest Holmes, and it's written about in a book called Change We Must, written by a practitioner of religious science, a Hawaiian woman named Nana Viri. And she talks about an incident, a moment in one of the classes that she had with Ernest Holmes when she came to study with him. During one of our final classes, she writes, he, Ernest Holmes, walked over to the window and said, "Come here, look out the window and tell me what you see." We all went and looked out. We saw people walking up and down the sidewalks and traffic going by. After a while, he said, "What have you seen?" Just people walking by, we answered, cars and buses passing by. I told him, "I don't see anything unusual." He then said, "How long have you studied with me?" We said 2 years. He said, "You haven't learned anything, have you?" Come back to the window again. We went back to the window, and just then a group of people passed by on the sidewalk. Dr. Holmes looked out and said, "See, God in so many faces passing by." And then I remembered my grandmother, a Hawaiian healer, telling me that she was not feeding the stranger, but entertaining the gods. I thought to myself, oh my God, metaphysics was right before my nose, and I didn't see it. Metaphysics is the name of the teaching that we teach here. But a spiritual leader of any sort is like Ernest Holmes, shows you the divinity in you and in everyone around you. Something that is already active in you, alive in you right now, always already there, but you don't see it until you look for it. So with this awareness, if you're comfortable, please repeat after me and look around the room at the people you're saying this to. Let's begin. We recognize you. We know who you really are. You are the spiritual image and likeness of God. You are a holy face of divinity. You are a unique way that love, beauty, and intelligence are happening on this planet. Beauty and intelligence are. We appreciate you. And we thank God for you. Peace and blessings. That is the opening greeting often used at Agape Center down in Culver City, and where the minister is Michael Beckwith, one of our powerful teachers of science of mind. The topic of this talk is leadership from the heart. And in it, I'm going to be drawing on the teachings of the mystical branch of Islam called Sufism. And I'm going to be teaching the way I find this teaching through the poetry of three major poets, Rumi, Hafez, and Daniel Ladinsky. Rumi was a 13th century Islamic mystic. His poetry has in fact been the largest selling poetry in the United States for the last 10 to 15 years. Lived in the 13th century, and we're reading him now, avidly reading him now. And I will be teaching a 4-night class at the beginning this Tuesday on Rumi, Hafez, and friends. Rumi said the same thing as the greeting we just did, but he did it in his own distinctive way. He did a lot of short poems, sometimes 1-2 lines. He said, "You are the truth from head to toe." Now, what else would you like to know? Truth, by the way, in Islam is a name for God. The heart in Islam means something different than our Western understanding of heart, where we consider it to be the center of feelings and emotions, and then we contrast that to the mind with its thinking and so forth. But in Sufism, in Islam, the heart is both heart and mind as we understand it. And it is, in fact, the ultimate center of human consciousness. That consciousness that you're listening to me right now, the center of it is what the Sufis call the heart. It's your inmost reality. And as for the lump of flesh within the breast, that is the shadow or outermost skin of that heart. Between this lump of flesh and that heart are infinite levels of consciousness and self-realization. As one's inmost reality, the heart is always with God. Thus, when Sufis speak of the essence of their spiritual practice, they speak of opening the heart. And the path of opening the heart is called the path of love. In the Quran, the Islamic scripture, Allah, which is the Islamic name for God, says, "My earth and my heaven," all of creation, I'm adding, "my earth and my heaven do not encompass me, but the heart of my servant who has faith does encompass me." It's a very interesting statement. All of manifest creation can't hold God. But your heart, the heart that lives in the center of you, has all of God in it. Rumi, in his succinct and down-to-earth way, says, every object, every being is a jar full of delight. Be a connoisseur. So how do we open the heart through the path of love? The Course in Miracles and metaphysical text that many of us study states that we can't be taught how to love. You can't teach anybody how to love. It's your nature. It's already you. It's already happening. All we can do is teach you how to remove the blocks to the awareness of this love already active in you and around you. Love is an activity of the one, of God, the only thing that there is, and is beyond any individual's doing. It's a universal energy, and it lives at the center of every being. Ernest Holmes described the power and possibility of love within us this way. You and I would not know of the limitless possibility of the meaning of love if we only loved 2 or 3 people. But I can imagine what a terrific thing it will be when I love a great many people. When I love all people as well as those I love the most without loving them less. That's too big for me now because I'm a little lover, so to speak. But I'm telling you of a dynamic truth, and I know it to be true. The kick you get out of those you love, the feeling you have toward them, someday you may expect to have toward everyone you meet. Isn't that love? That's the promise of what we are to be conscious of, actively doing, as we deepen our awareness, as we learn to listen within to what's actually going on all the time. So, removing the blocks to the awareness of love can be done in many ways, and Sufism has its own practice in its own path. It's very complex and wonderful. And I'm going to be talking about the way we might do it within this particular tradition, Science of Mind. So the first advice, the first activity that I would give is open your heart and don't harden it. When you see somebody you're not feeling love for, to say the least, don't shut them out of your heart by hardening yourself against them. Just choose not to pursue your unloving feelings. Don't elaborate on them. Remain silent within yourself about your negative feelings towards them. You know, when you do that, you begin to be able to feel your connection. And you may forget, quite likely, and you're going to forget. But return again and again to not elaborating on those negative, hard feelings towards someone. And if you're able to appreciate them in any way, realize that this is God seeing them as you. Suzuki Roshi, my Zen teacher, said that Zen masters have a grandmotherly mind. They see everyone with that care and appreciation and enjoyment of a grandparent. We often feel this natural appreciation when we watch babies play. Appreciation of others is to allow yourself to feel the energy, to feel their energy as good. You recognize your own energy when you do that, because your own energy knows and feels the goodness within you. Each person is a dimension of your life, the one life that we're all living. You are a dimension of the life of God. Letting in others' energy through good, through feeling the common life energy you share, you benefit from their good. You wish them well because your good is their good and their good is your good. Now, in the world, ecology points to this again and again. Everything is connected. Everything that is done is supporting, sustaining everything else. When you begin to realize that, you realize that there's a whole that's going on that requires the energy of everyone for it to operate. This connection, which in ecology is about the material, physical world, is the connection that we feel within towards everyone when we allow ourselves to recognize it. Rumi points to this connection in this poem. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. In that place, we know and feel the connection in which we are in fact one, which is the truth of our being. In Zen Buddhism, there's a prayer said before every meal. It begins this way: 10,000 labors brought us this food. We should know how it comes to us. And what that's pointing to, 10,000 means countless. You can't number it. What that's pointing to is that countless beings are supporting our life. And we should know and honor that, and honor how everything that we have comes through the support of others, comes through the support of the one. We can feel gratitude for that, even if though we're not really aware of it happening at the moment. Rumi has a little phrase that I love about this. He says, giving thanks for abundance is sweeter than the abundance itself. And also then, know that your presence is radiating love because it's the nature of your being. No matter what you're aware of or what you're feeling, God's love is moving through you, like that torrent that we talked about, that river moving through you all the time. Ernest Holmes describes it in his way. He says, back of us, the infinite searches, finding manifestation through us, as us, and all that we are. It is what we are, and we should never deny it. When we surrender to it, we are not surrendering to a foreign agent, but are acquiescing consciously to the divine host, a celestial visitor, a universal that has found individualization in you. Know that the divine torrent is flowing through you now. The Christian Bible has another way of saying this, of acknowledging this energy that is continually coming to us and through us. It says, except the Lord build the house, they that labor, labor in vain. Meaning that unless you recognize and allow that there is an energy greater than the individual you have thought you were, greater than the individual you imagined was separate from other people, greater than the individual that is outside of that field that we talked about, that energy is actually moving through you and guiding you. If you don't know that, anything you attempt to build will not stand. Becoming aware of this changes our experience of all we do. In medieval times, a man was walking toward a cathedral, which was under construction. And along the way, he meets several workers. The first one he meets, he asks, "What are you doing?" And the worker says wearily, "I'm earning my pay. I'm surviving. I'm doing the work I have to do to be able to exist." And the man thanks the person and walks on and asks the next worker, "What are you doing?" And he says, with enthusiasm, "I am creating a beautiful structure. I'm bringing forth into life beauty and being and wonderfulness and the aliveness in me I really feel as I create this." And the man thanked him. And then he walks on and talks to a third worker and says, "What are you doing?" And that third worker says with ecstasy, "I am building the temple of God. I am creating a place in which the glory of the divine being is showing forth. That's what I'm doing." Do you know how your work, how your life, how your being is doing the same thing? Showing the glory of God? It's actually true. We don't see it because we don't think it's happening. In Islam, they call that the veils. We keep thinking that we're creating something. We keep thinking that what's going on is us trying to be our best, when in fact, the river of divine love and creativity is flowing through us all the time. Are you aware simply of the beneficial impact of your work and your life in this world? Of the good that the divine is bringing forth through you, not through any job you do, not through any role you have, not through any accomplishment, but by simply being, bringing forth love to raise a child, caring for each other, simply being kind to those who need kindness. These are all God acting through and as you. Feel it now. Remove any judgment you have about what you do or don't do. And know, beyond wrongdoing and right doing, that something's going on that is the work of God, and you're doing it. This is why you exist. And as Jennifer read in the opening, it's important in the book of the month, which is Start with Why, how great leaders inspire everyone to take action, that finding that why in your life, the why that says, "Oh, I'm revealing God," is fundamental to your well-being, success, and to discover who and what you actually are. The author writes, "Very few people or companies can articulate why they do what they do." When I say why, I don't mean to make money. That's a result. By why, I mean, what is your purpose, cause, or belief? Why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed every morning? And why should anyone care? We say what we do, we sometimes say how we do it, but we rarely say why we do what we do. It all starts from the inside out. It all starts with why. I'm engaged in a spiritual practice as part of my Science of Mind practice, in which the question is asked regularly. What's your intention? Why are you meditating? Why are you doing spiritual practice? And if you're doing it for self-improvement, it's not big enough. Because what you are, your actual self is much larger than what you think it to be. Michael Beckwith has a phrase, if what you want to do is impossible, is not wait just a second. If what you want to do is possible, it's not large enough of an intention. It has to be larger than you can presently imagine. That's the Spirit coming forth in you. When you begin to allow yourself to see the benefit to you bring to all being by simply being, you begin to see the why in everything you do. Now, you can enact all of this by simply being present. Being present to what's going on, for instance, right now. William James, who is one of the amazing philosophers and a founder and supporter, actually a major supporter of New Thought of metaphysics, was a Harvard professor in the 19th century. He was standing with a group of students on Harvard Square, and a professor goes by and doesn't acknowledge any of the students. They begin to laugh, and they say, "Oh, there's that absent-minded professor." And William James said, No, wait. He said, he's not absent-minded, he's just present-minded somewhere else. You know, I, and perhaps others in this room, watch YouTube. And I'm really aware that YouTube keeps feeding me whatever I show an interest in, and I feel trapped in it because I just get reinforced. Oh, this is what's of interest. This is important. And it continuously tells me that whatever I've been paying attention to is the most important thing going on. And when we do that, we don't notice what we're missing. And we continually repeat it in our minds. Are you familiar with this voice that is kind of continually talking? It's basically, most of the time, not your thoughts at all. It's what you've heard. It's what other people have told you with conviction and belief. Of course, you do have your own beliefs. But so much of it is somebody else's thought, looping endlessly, and it captures you. You're told who to like, who to dislike, what to fear, and that you should fear, and what to worry about. Rumi says, "Be empty of worrying. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Move outside the tangle of fear thinking." Begin to see that you're all on the same team. This whole world and you. Everyone in it. You can do that by seeing, as the Course in Miracles states, that everything that anyone ever does is either an act of love or a call for love. This understanding of love in every action becomes your goal, where you can ally with anyone. You may not agree with how they go about it, but you can say, yes, we should have love. We should have safety. We should have freedom. The understanding of love in every action is found everywhere in the poetry of Hafez, another poet, mystical poet, Islamic, that we'll be studying. He wrote powerful love poems to God, and they're inspired by, and those poems inspired this poem written by a modern poet, Daniel Ladinsky. It's called simply That Moon Language. Admit something. Everyone you see, you say to them, "Love me." Of course, you don't do this out loud. Otherwise, someone might call the cops. Still, though, think about this great pull in us to connect. Why not become the one who lives with a full moon in each eye that is always saying with that sweet moon language what every other eye in this world is dying to hear? Find a goal you can agree on with this world, with the people in it. Be on the same team. You have different ideas about how to do it, but you have the same goal. Ram Dass, whom many of us have experienced as a spiritual teacher over many decades, was once asked by a group of parents, "Look, we've got children now. How can we help them not make the mistakes that we made?" And he chuckled and said, "Well, you'll never do that." But he did say, what you can do is not nail them to their mistakes. Don't identify them with them as that kind of person that makes that kind of mistake. Don't nail them. Don't nail yourself to your mistakes. Return again and again to looking for the love within your heart, for the God living in and as you. Return to it again and again. Teach everyone, including you, to accept the invitation that Rumi had inscribed on his shrine. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows, perhaps 10,000 times. Come again, come. Come. Returning again and again, not hardening your heart, feeling your connection to all of life, joining with the heart that in everyone that seeks love. These are the ways you are freed to find God's love moving in you, through you, as you. And then you follow Rumi's advice. Let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. Please join me in prayer. Each one here is the living temple of the Divine One. It lives as and through each of us. It is the mind right now that is hearing this word in us. For there's only one mind. And that's what we call God. That's what we call reality, consciousness. It lives at the center of our being. It has always been here, and we know and feel it. It is our heart. So I accept that each one now, by simply listening, is activating the Divine One within them, and a new revelation is happening through these words, beyond this time. And we are being shown what we are, who we are, and how it is. And in that showing, we are freed, we are released. We no longer have veils covering our eyes, and we see what really is. And in that seeing, we find joy and peace and love, all that we have called God. So I'm grateful for this awareness. I'm grateful for this gratitude. And I simply release this word and let it be. And so it is.